Rankings.
Hello everybody, my name's Cody. Welcome back to the TPO Rankings show. This is our finale, the last show of the season. Thanks for following along this year so far. It's been an awesome year. Our first season at the TPO Rankings show. I couldn't have done it without this guy. This guy, he used to be a winger, but he posed as a centre back, I suppose. Jake, how are you tonight?
Very well, thank you, Cody. More of a central midfielder, I think, directing play from the middle of the park. But
as you got older, you progressed further back, I think.
That's right. I like to say that it's because we just needed somebody really safe at the back there, but it was probably because I was not as quick as or as fit as some of the others. Yeah.
Okay. Jake, it's been a good year, hasn't it?
It has been a great year.
TPO Rankings.
Been really good, yeah.
We've learnt a lot. For
sure.
When we first started this journey at the start of the year, or probably a long time before that actually, we had all these plans of what it would be like, and once you actually get going, you learn what the people actually want to see and what works for us. So I'm sure we'll come back in 2019 bigger and better and stronger. For sure. But, so this week, guys, we've got only the 2 FFA Cup games to recap. But then we're talking all things basically, the whole year. So we're looking at the big stats. So where a lot of the teams have finished in the year. And Jake's pulled out some interesting stats. I had a quick glance down at the images down there earlier on, and there's some good stuff there. Guys who are listening on the podcast, head over to our Facebook page and watch this video. This one will definitely be full of good images. So it's a good one to watch on the video as well. And Jake or myself might actually put some of these up as separate posts on Facebook and Instagram. But before I jump in, Jake, I've got a bit of a shout out. So there's an awesome cause going up here on the sunny coast where I'm located, where I live. The Premier men's goalkeeper from Maroochydore, a team I played against this year, Tim Cornthwaite is his name. He was badly injured, fracturing multiple vertebrae in his neck, meaning he won't be able to basically move a lot. He's got a halo neck brace for quite some time, so he can't work. He's got a wife, 2 young boys, so there's a charity match being put up here on the Sunshine Coast at Maroochydore Football Club, November 10, with the proceeds going to that cause there. If you live near the coast, please get down and check that out. That's November 10. But I realise most people watching and listening won't be up this way on the Sunshine Coast. So there's actually a GoFundMe for Tim and his family. So I'm putting the link in the podcast show notes and the video on YouTube and Facebook. If you're in a position to help, please do. We haven't asked for anything this year, really. We don't do advertising. We don't do sponsors. We don't ask for money. So this is probably the one ask I have for the year, and it's timely being the last show of the year. So this way we'll actually go to something good, a positive difference here for Tim and the family. And I don't know Tim personally, but I did get to play against him this season. So Tim, from Jake and I at TPO Rankings, we wish you a speedy recovery, mate, and all the best. So Jake, I hope you're okay with me mentioning that there.
Yep, no, good on you, Cody. That's a good one.
Cool. All right, let's jump on into and if you've got questions about that, just hit me up and I can point you in the direction as well. So we'll jump into the recap of the 2 FFA Cup games. So we had Bentley Greens, Adelaide United. The result was 2-0 Adelaide United. We predicted Adelaide to win, but the supporters, Jake, I don't know if I'm surprised by these anymore, the voters on Instagram, but they actually, 70% of our supporters voted for Bentley Greens. There was a decent number of votes on that. We've been increasing every week, basically since the start of the show. We're getting some decent numbers on those votes, and 70% went for Bentley. So it just goes to show, and I think the week before that, people were backing Apia over Adelaide as well. Or was it Adelaide they played? Or something?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So it goes to show, you get it's perhaps getting closer and closer. Maybe 3 years ago, Jake, if we had these questions, I reckon we would have seen more A-League teams voted for. But
probably, more like 80-10 in favour of the A-League, and those voting for the NPL were probably taking the piss a little bit, but.
Yeah, but now I think people actually, anyway. So, that was that result. The other one, Western Sydney Wanderers and Sydney Derby there at Panthers Stadium, Saturday night. Sydney got up 3-0. We predicted a Sydney win, and 62% of the supporters also went Sydney. So, Jake, that ends the season for the voting. We got 2 out of 2 this week. The supporters 1 out of 2 this week. We finished on 75 for the year. The supporters 64. So we beat them by 11 points, Jake. I'd say that's pretty convincing. I think there was a few weeks there where we were even sort of earlier on in the year, but we kind of just strode away. And I think there was 1 or 2 weeks in the whole year where the supporters outdid us. But
there's always next year though. But
There's always next year. If we do this anyway, Matt, we might mix it up. It sort of was a good idea. And I like the voting on the Instagram, but I'm not sure about the leaderboard. I didn't really promote that too much. So we might have to have a bit of a...
Maybe we'll just get a little trophy or something for ourselves, Cody, and then we can retire it. And find
that
something
sounds all right. A toilet seat or something?
Yeah.
We'll have to think. A shower head or something like that. So that's it. That's all the games. If you've been watching and listening along this year, usually we have a whole bunch of games, but that's it. NPL season done. As this is the last show of the year. So, it's been a big year, Jake. It's been a bloody big year.
It has, yeah. Like you said, you said before, we've learnt a lot. I think one of the biggest things is that we've just learnt so many different about different clubs, the names of different clubs, the leagues that they play, and just. I mean, probably with most people, like for those watching at home, think about the league that you know most about and the clubs that you kind of follow or play for or that sort of thing. But you often just don't even think about what's going on around the rest of the country until you see an FFA Cup game or an NPL championship or something like that. So what this has done is forced Cody and I to really learn more about the other states. So, if nothing else, I think that's probably a big win for us, Cody.
Yeah, I've totally been enjoying it, Jake. So... Part 2 of the show, and basically all we'll be talking about for the rest of the show is just a few stats here. Jake, you've just got images, so I don't really know how you want to roll through them. Let's maybe we can just go down one by one and have a bit of a discussion. If people got questions, hit us up on the social media, on the video over there, and we'll keep the discussion rolling for a few weeks.
And I should say as well, when you say if you've got questions, if they're questions about anything we're about to talk about, some of the stats. By all means, put them in. If there are other stats or things that you would like to see or know about, then we might be able to do that over on Facebook or something like that. Because really what we're doing here is, like Cody said, it's a summary of the year. It's a wrap of some of the stats from the leagues and clubs around the country that kind of jumped out at us. So obviously doing the TPO rankings and collecting all the data, we tend to, we have a lot of data in our database. So being able to pull some of the more interesting things out is one of the kind of benefits of doing it that way.
Definitely. All right, Jake, you want to lead us away there?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's just start with the one that's most important to us here, and that's obviously the TPO rankings themselves. We've been updating this every week throughout the year, and now that all of the non-A-League clubs have finished for the year, we can, kind of put a full stop on it until next season. Probably the most important one is that Bentley Greens are the highest ranked NPL club in the country, and they're currently ranked in 9th. So they only just snuck in ahead of Apia, despite losing that game the other night to Adelaide. So Apia in 10th. Wellington down in 11th. And look, I'm not touching on the A-League clubs just because the A-League's about to start and there'll be things moving. So we're just kind of focusing on those outside the A-League. Heidelberg, who probably, that's one stat, Cody, that I didn't do, which might be interesting as well, is who spent the most time ranked as number one NPL club for the year, but I would guess that Heidelberg was probably that club. They were up there for most of the year.
I think they held the first part of the year, didn't they? And then Apia jumped in there for a month or two.
Yep, so Heidelberg down 12th, and like I said, Bentley Greens just was kind of close the whole season, and that FFA Cup run probably helped them the most. Central Coast in 13th, and then just kind of running down a few more of the clubs there. Avondale, Campbelltown City, Sydney Olympic, Adelaide City, Lions FC, Metro Stars, and Manly United. So that kind of rounds out the top 20 clubs in Australia. And the top-ranked clubs in some of the other states, which we haven't mentioned, so Broadmeadow Magic finish on top in northern New South Wales, Perth Soccer Club in Western Australia, South Hobart, Tasmania, Canberra Olympic still top in the ACT, and Hellenic from the Northern Territory sneak into the top 100. They're ranked 97th.
Jake, I'm surprised to see Manly United in 20th. They had a pretty bad year. I mean, they did sort of just almost sneak in. What did they finish, 7th, or did they?
Yeah, they missed the finals. Yeah. I think. Yeah, that's probably something that we.
Yeah. I think obviously they started the year fairly high. With the last year, they had a good 2017. So 20th isn't a bad place to really finish for them, considering the year they had. Jake, how did Tasmania end up? They sort of fell off the grid there in the last few weeks. Do you know? From
memory down there, so Devonport City won the Premiership and Championship. Won the Premiership. In years gone by, Tasmania's had this final series where they take the top 6. So out of the 8 clubs, they take the top 6. And then they take the winner of the division below that is split into Northern and Southern. So they take the winner of both of those, and so it's a final series with 8 clubs. from what I can gather, that hasn't happened this year. So Devonport
Okay.
City go down as the, I guess, the champions simply from winning the league,
Okay.
and obviously had that FFA Cup reasonable run as well. So yeah, that's where it
there you
finished up. But South Hobart's just been so strong for so many years that they've. I think it's actually quite close. Devonport's not far behind them in the TPO rankings, but South Hobart managed to hold on to it
Sure.
for the rest of the year.
right,
Manly,
so
Cody, while I've got it, is
Yeah.
finished in 7th, so missed out on the
Okay.
finals. I mean, they finished on 28 points, and the clubs above them finished on 30, 31, 34, and it was only really the top couple that ran away. So they were
Sure.
there or thereabouts, I guess.
Fair enough. Jake, the next one looks like we're looking at the biggest movers up the rankings out of all the 362 clubs.
Yep. You want me to keep going, Cody?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so just kind of looking at some of the notes we've got here. So essentially we've looked at who's moved the most in the TPO rankings based on the 2018 year. So the one right out in front is Central Coast United in the New South Wales State League 1. It was their first year ever in the rankings and in existence from what I can gather. So the big movement is basically because they had such a great year and I guess started quite low as a new club. So they've moved up 143 spots on the rankings. They finished the year in 210th and expect to see them continue up if they have another season like they did. Excuse me. And in terms of some of their stats, which are reasonably impressive, so 22 games played in the league, they won 18 of them, so quite a good year, and drew 3, only lost the 1, and they scored 85 goals and only conceded 17, so quite a good year. Bellambi and Coniston are in 2nd and 3rd here. They're both from the same league, the Illawarra District League, which is the 2nd tier in Football South Coast, so I don't even know what tier that makes it overall, Cody, about tier, I don't know, 7, something like that, 6 or 7. These two clubs didn't do well last year. They absolutely ran away with it compared to all the other clubs in the league there this year, which is why they're both so high up the rankings, I should say. Guelph Croatia is a club that we've talked quite a bit about, Cody, from Western Australia's Division 1, and they've had a great year, shot up the rankings there up to 113th. Finished in 2nd, so they, like we kind of mentioned in a previous show, they miss out on promotion anyway, but there's a chance they wouldn't have gained promotion even if they had finished on top there for other reasons. I think they didn't quite meet some of the criteria. I don't want to spend too long on this, but I'll just run them down. And Perth Glory in the Western Australian PL, Caboolture in Queensland's Capital One shot up the rankings. Campbelltown City, this will probably not surprise anyone, Cody, and worthy of a mention as well. They, premiers and champions in South Australia, had a killer year. Who else have we got here? Whittlesea United from Victorian State League 2, Manningham United Blues from State League 1, and Adelaide Raiders from South Australia's State League 1. So they kind of round out the top 10 movers up the rankings for the year.
Brilliant, yeah, and there's another, I think, 10 clubs. It's the top 20 there. So for folks wanting to see the full list, and we've ranked it by points move, not position. So points is the big one there. And then the position is next to it, though, as well. But yeah, Central Coast United by far and away the most moved club of the year.
Yep, and switch to the other side, Cody.
Yeah, the Downers.
Yeah.
So who's leading the way here, Jake?
So this one, again, there's one that's way out in front in terms of the number of TPO points lost. It's Fraser Park from the New South Wales NPL 3. And part of the reason is last year, I think they finished 2nd in that league. So they had quite a good year, and this year they've fallen away very strongly. So they played 26 games. They only won 1, 5 draws, 20 losses. They copped 96 goals in those 26 games, so a goal difference of negative 70, and finished bottom of that league and will be relegated next year. So a very poor season from them. There's some really bad ones in here, Cody, in terms of the stats and how they've kind of performed. So Park Ridge from Queensland's Capital One, 22 games played, 22 games lost, copped 140 goals, goal difference of negative 129. Then you've got Wide Bay from the Wide Bay Buccaneers from the Football Queensland Premier League, played 24 games, lost 24 games, scored only 16 and copped 140 goals as well. Bloody, yeah, not good. Again, I won't spend long, so I'll just kind of run down the rest of the 10. You've got Vikings from Northern Territory, Joondalup United from the Western Australian NPL, Canning City from the Division 2 in Western Australia, Holland Park Hawks from the Football Queensland Premier League. South Melbourne's an interesting one on this list, Cody. So from the Victorian NPL, obviously, they're ranked in 35th. So they, it doesn't sound like they've dropped a long way, but in terms of the TPO points they've lost, they've lost 20 positions. So they must have been in 15th at the start of the year. They've lost 150 TPO points, so a long way down. They won 8 of their 26 league games, so not very good for a club with a lot of history. And the last 2 in the top 10 are West Torrens Bacala from South Australia's NPL and Melbourne City from Victoria's NPL 2.
Okay, doke. All right, if we're looking at the next one, Jake, it looks like we're going into some unbeaten streaks. So the longest unbeaten streaks for the year. It looks like the biggest one was Hellenic from Northern Territory, but that is over, Jake?
Yeah, so
obviously the FFA Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So they lost it to Western Sydney Wanderers in that FFA Cup game by the single goal. So they nearly did the impossible, but 24 games unbeaten. And I mean, the comments to this might be, well, it's the Northern Territory League, but at the same time, you can only beat who's in front of you, and
Sure.
to have a club go 24 games unbeaten is pretty incredible. So very worthy winners of the longest unbeaten streak for the year. What else? You want me to keep going here, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, who else? So we got Gold Coast Knights had 21 games unbeaten. That obviously finished against the Newcastle Jets.
Yep.
In the A-League. And then the two sort of current unbeaten streaks is one up here, Noosa Lions from the Sunny Coast. Is that on 18, Jake? Or
20. They're on
20. Sorry,
yep.
Little numbers there. And they are equal to Olympic Kingsway. Jake, what league are they in?
That's an excellent question, Cody. I thought you were going to ask me, and I don't have the answer right in front of me. So
that's all right.
Continue down the list, Cody, while I find you an answer.
That'd be good. Peninsula Power got beaten in the FFA Cup, but they're on, I believe it's a 16-game. They went on a 16-game unbeaten streak. Lions FC from Queensland and Wollongong Olympic on 17. So Bulli is currently still undefeated on 17 games as well, and they're down in the Wollongong region, so Illawarra region. But apart from that, again, there's another image of about 10 clubs there. So guys who are interested, jump on. But yeah, it looks like for the moment in this image, there's only 4 who are currently on the streak. The streak is alive. Noosa Lions, Olympic, Kingsway, leading the way ahead of Bulli and Rockingham City from the Western Australian. I think they just got promoted too into the NPL there. So.
Yep. And I've got Olympic Kingsway here for you, Cody. Western Australia Division 2.
Okay, there you go. So, and that was the next, still intact. Yeah, that's the next one. And then the streaks after Rockingham City, who are on 14 games unbeaten, goes down to 11. So Celtic from Northern Territory. We've got Peninsula Power, who have just been promoted into the NPL, and St George City on 11. So... Jake, the next one looks like you've got here is most games played. That's an interesting one, not one I would have asked, but
I don't know. I thought it might be interesting to look at who. I mean, it'll probably be pretty, common sense, I guess, the answer here in terms of the clubs that went the furthest in the FFA Cup and that sort of thing. But just thought it was an interesting stat to see how many games some of the clubs around the country are playing.
And for those listening, it looks like. So Bentley, Greens, Avondale and Lions FC have all played 37 competitive matches this year, at least, and that wouldn't include like the pre-season as well. So it's been a big year for those clubs. Heidelberg and Apia 36, Perth Soccer Club, Olympic FC, Port Melbourne Sharks and Altona Magic 33 games each. So yeah, decent season. I hope they
huge.
Had squad. I guess they have the squad numbers in there to back them up. Next one, Jake. Most goals scored in 2018.
Yep. So I looked at... so these are the goals in those same competitive matches. So no kind of pre-season stuff and no penalty shootouts, that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
There are 7 clubs from the leagues that we cover. So like we said, the rankings cover 392 clubs and a whole bunch of leagues, sorry. And there were 7 clubs around the country that scored 100 goals or more this season, and so we've pulled them out. The club that scored the most goals was Peninsula Power in the Football Queensland Premier League. They scored 123 goals across all competitions. Hellenic, who went on that 24-game unbeaten streak, scored 112. Eastern Suburbs also in the Football Queensland Premier League, so pretty interesting. Some very high scores in that league, scored 109. Lions FC from the NPL in Queensland scored 107. Apia Leichhardt Tigers scored 105. And Central Coast United from the State League 1 in New South Wales 101. And Western Pride from the Queensland NPL 100. So of those 7 clubs, 4 of them from Queensland, 1 from Northern Territory, and 2 from New South Wales. So
yeah, I guess looking at the Queensland leagues, Jake, which I know a little bit about compared to the other ones, just the NPL, I suppose you've got some teams down the bottom like Sunny Coast Fire who copped, I think it was a 15,
it was 17-1 and a 15-0.
And Lions and Western Pride were 2 clubs who definitely belted them around. And Peninsula and East, I think, touched up Wide Bay, and there was maybe some other teams in that league as well. So it doesn't take, those games aside, they still scored a lot of goals against quality teams. So congratulations.
Just to hit 100 goals in a single year, that's pretty incredible. So, this list kind of tells it. Out of all the clubs we've looked at, there's only 7 in the entire country that have done it. So it's quite an impressive little stat.
I'd like to see the breakdown. Like we don't do player stats, but it would be interesting to see those clubs, the players who scored all those goals. It'd be interesting to see. Jake, the next one, and it looks like the last sort of stat here we've got most goals scored per game. Okay, so it's basically taken,
just allowing for the fact that some clubs play a lot more games than others. So a lot of the names that we just mentioned feature on this list as well. So we've looked at the top 10. Hellenic, who we said scored 112 goals, played less games than most, so they scored an average of 4.5 goals per game.
That's a lot of goals.
That's a lot of goals.
Imagine playing in a team that scores 4.5 goals a game. That'd be a fun year.
As a striker, for sure. Probably a bit boring as a goalkeeper. Anyway, and Peninsula Power, who we said scored the most goals out of any club, played more games, but still scored 4.1 goals per game. So that's still over 4 goals a game. It's pretty crazy. Eastern Suburbs is in third, 3.9. Celtic, who didn't score over 100 goals, but per game they've scored 3.8. Noosa Lions, one of those clubs that went on I think it was a 20-game unbeaten streak and still going, is on the list. Central Coast United, Western Pride, Annerley, Cooks Hill United and Verdi are the top 10 in terms of goals per game. So all of those clubs have scored somewhere above 3.3 goals per game on average. That's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, that's looks like that's basically it. Anything to add?
What we might do at the end, Cody, of the show for those that want to keep watching after we finish talking and say goodbye and everything, is we'll just put up an image of the all the premiers and champions from all the leagues that we've covered. So just a bit of a summary. There's no point us reading the whole list out. It'll get a bit boring for everybody, but just a bit of a summary of who the winners were and who got the trophies this year.
Sure, that sounds good. Well, Jake, thanks very much for the year. It's been a fun year. Obviously, we've put a lot of work, and you probably more than me with all your stats, and I got the easier job of just editing and doing some other stuff. So thanks for the year, Jake. We'll have to have a bit of a celebration.
Yeah, I think we will. Well, it's Mad Monday. Might be a bit boring with just the two of us.
Mad Monday. All right, yeah, that sounds good. Well, thanks everyone else for watching and sticking by for the year. Thank you to all the clubs for sending us jerseys. That's been awesome. That's been one of the perks this year. We've got some great jerseys. We've probably got 20 plus jerseys now, and I'm sure we'll hit some clubs up for more in next year. Actually, I think there's still a couple more heading our way this year. So, but please do keep following us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll probably continue to do some stuff there around the A-League. No big shows like this, but just maybe some stories and stuff like that from time to time.
And we should say as well, Cody, the TPO rankings themselves, we'll keep them up to date with the A-League. So make sure you keep checking the website if you need to see where what's happening over there.
Definitely. And in the new year, I'm not sure when we'll kick back on. I think this year we started mid to late Feb, Jake?
Yeah, I think we kind of start getting back into it once we can see some of the fixture lists and a little bit more information. We don't really cover the pre-season tournaments. So somewhere around February, early Feb, I think this year was when the first league kicked off. And the other thing, Cody, I know I'm kind of thinking of these things as we're going, but if anybody has any requests for clubs or leagues to be added, that's one of my jobs over the off season, is that I'd like to expand the rankings further. So if you've got a club or league you would like added, please let us know.
Yeah, and I know Jake and I've got this list on the computer, on our software here, of heaps of things we want to add to the TPO rankings. So yeah, if you definitely keep following along and send your requests, send your questions, because we plan to be around for a long time to come. We're just getting things started in our spare time at home, but eventually one day we might turn into something a little bit more. So once again, thanks so much for following along this year. It's been awesome. Appreciate the support, and we'll see you on social media. If not, we'll see you and all that sort of stuff in 2019. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks, everybody.
See you next year. Have a good Christmas.
Yes, catch ya. Say good day to Mum for me.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.